You tonight breathing easy because the White House has finally announced they plan to end the COVID public health emergency in May. Take that, COVID. We beat you. Shove that up your nose and rotate it 5 times. This has been a long time coming. I wish you could see the smiles on the faces of my audience. And I wish I could too, because they're still wearing...
I'm sorry to say this, Parody is not alive. I understand now why less people watch this show. Recently, Joe calls global warming bigger threat to humanity than nuclear war during New York City speech. Biden is going viral on social media recently for reasons I don't know if you have seen.
Filled with tens of thousands of gallons of fuel. And then they launched. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. Imagine your dumbest, most officious kindergarten teacher takes a ton of acid and then becomes vice president. She's not sober. There's like mescaline or something.
Yes, according to this article from the New York Post, President Biden gave Manhattan donors an update on his thought about nuclear war Tuesday, saying that he currently views global warming as a greater threat less than 4 months after he casually told a different set of New York City donors that the war was closer to nuclear Armageddon. Going down on the article, global warming is the single most extended threat to humanity we have ever faced, including nuclear weapons, Biden told a small group of supporters, lining a rare infrastructure event nearby.
As we face. And by the way, if you don't think we have a climate crisis, come travel with me around the country. No, I'm not joking. Go back. Go back. And here we are. Travel around the country. I have been in the West Coast and the Southwest and the Northwest where more timber has burned to the ground than the entire state of Missouri. Hear me? The entire state. We have enormous drought. Now we have these superstorms in the West. I just was out in California in a helicopter with the governor again in Northern California. Folks, there is a thing called global warming. It's real. But we can do something about it.
Yes, when I saw this article, I had to laugh throughout. How can you even say this? That global warming is a bigger threat than nuclear war. Are you okay to even mention this?
All right, President Biden warning about the real threat facing humanity, and it's got nothing to do with nuclear warfare.
In a closed-door event in New York City, it was a fundraiser, Biden telling the donors, quote, if we don't stay under 1.5 degrees Celsius, we're going to have a real problem. It's the single most existential threat to humanity we have ever faced, including nuclear weapons.
So true.
And so we have a real big problem.
We have a real big guest. Fox News contributor Douglas Murray joins us right now. Douglas, so he was behind the scenes, a closed door, talking to his base. Yeah. And he was saying exactly what they wanted to hear. Hey, climate change is bigger than anything else, so keep it going, Mr. President.
Yes, bigger as long as it's just the latest crisis. Because remember, in this country as across the world, we've been staggering from alleged crisis to crisis in recent years. We've had this, we have the financial crisis, we have the cost of living crisis and so on. And then whenever we've sort of haven't got an imminent crisis, always the left say, we've got the climate crisis. Right. They always fall back on it. But to claim that it's a bigger crisis than the threat of nuclear weapons as there's a hot war going on in Europe is...
right, but
it just shows some misplaced priorities.
He's got a re-election crisis.
Do you think he believes this?
Oh, I can't read the president's brain, but what I do know is, as you say, is that he's definitely playing to the base. The base love this talk. They love the talk of the climate crisis. Remember, the climate used to be a problem we used to talk about. There's a climate problem, then it's a climate crisis, climate emergency. That's one of the ones to the left. They want people to sign up to the agreement that we have a climate emergency.
You know, when you look at the way they usually sound this, You can be frightened. You also a clip I did few days ago at the World Economic Forum where one man stood up. The way he presented it, you would think by the next day you would not be alive. We have seen financial crisis, climate crisis, COVID crisis. You know, the crises are just too much in such a way that you'll be thinking the next day you will not even exist. Something they now say, like you heard here, climate emergency. You need to sign up very fast.
Dear friends, scientifically, this is not a climate crisis. We are now facing something deeper. Mass extinction, air pollution, undermining ecosystem functions, really putting humanity's future at risk. This is a planetary crisis.
This is a safety crisis, but above all, it is also a justice crisis. Many areas in the world are uninhabitable. This uninhabitable zone is increasing. If we continue with our greenhouse gas emissions, then by 2070, as many as 3 billion people will live in uninhabitable zones.
Watching this clip is about 43 seconds. You will see that they have mentioned about 10 different crises just in these 43 seconds. Pollution crisis, climate crisis. At a certain point, it is like some kind of fiction movie, when you're watching. And they always talk the same. It's like they have a summary of what they are supposed to use every single day. Joe declared recently, like you've seen at the beginning of the clip, that global warming is more dangerous than nuclear war. This is something that triggered the whole internet. A lot of people says, how can you even mention this?
Are the point and are the solution givers to this planet. Keep telling them that and they'll believe it, and eventually it'll just become a self-reinforcing prophecy. That's where the president is, I think, with his base.
Why is this his new message, or fairly new?
Well, I think, as I say, it's an issue of riding up the base. It's an issue of priorities at the moment. I just think that, people have to, first of all, realise we cannot stagger from alleged crisis to crisis, existential emergency to existential emergency. You've also got to give people some hope. I mean, American politics has always been about this, if nothing else. It's also to say, OK, these are challenges we face, but we also have hope in the future. You can't keep telling people we're on the edge of Armageddon.
Right. Thank you. You need to give humanity some hope. Like he said, we have this crisis that we are facing, but there is still hope. That is how they talked. When you present these situations the way they usually do, sometimes a lot of people will not even take you serious. Thank you guys. And if possible, share this clip.